everyone, it's Ryan from Arcade High, and today we're going over constructing lead lines. And you might be wondering why Mary Had a Little Lamb played at the beginning of this video, but we'll get to that in a minute. So over the years, Patrick and I have come up with a few different sort of structures or sequences for our lead lines to make them a little catchier, make them a little better. Now, obviously, we can't necessarily answer what makes something catchy. That's a pretty subjective question. We feel that when you can structure your lead lines in certain ways, it can help to kind of give them two legs to stand on. And it kind of makes it so they aren't just a bunch of random notes strung together, which I seem to hear a lot for especially newer producers. And we've also heard these sequences, whether intentional or not, in other music that's popular and other stuff that we listen to. And so let's dive right in. So when sequencing or structuring your lead lines, it kind of revolves around this idea of the motif. And so in music, a motif is a short musical phrase. Using these short musical phrases, we'll be arranging them in different sequences or structures. One thing to mention is this is only referring to the notes being played in the lead or hook of the track and can be expressed via an instrument or a vocalist. So, for example, if we begin with our first sequence, which is the most popular sequence that I've found, is ABAC. So each of these letters will represent a short series of notes, beginning with A, which will be your main motif that will end up repeating the most throughout the track. Then on to part B of the lead, back to A, with a possible slight change in rhythm or notes. And then C will resolve the lead and tie everything up in a bow. This repetition of the A motif throughout the lead and throughout the entire track can help create a more catchy hook for the listener. You can hear this ABAC structure in a ton of our tracks and a bunch of different other tracks, popular tracks, which we'll get to here in a moment. But here it is on our song The Quest off of our 2016 album Kingdom. And you can also hear it on our song Select Start from our latest album, New Impressions. And then you can see it in these other tracks here. And like I said, this is the most common one that we've found. And if you haven't guessed it, here at the very top, it's also the structure of Mary Had a Little Lamb. And so listen to it one more time and you'll see what I mean. And so it's interesting to hear that while looking at that sequence to kind of see how that can be broken down, and whether or not you find that to be a catchy, lead or whatever is up to you. But it is a song that's lasted for generations and generations and is easily recognizable by most people. And I think what I find the most interesting about that is it's only done with 3 notes. Always keep it simple when you can. There's a power in simplicity. So the next sequence would be ABAB, and so this one doesn't necessarily have the final part to kind of tie a bow on the lead line or the hook, and it's probably the least common of the ones that I did my research on, but I did find it here and there, and we do use it on our track In the Dark. The ABAB sequence you can also see in Sunset by the Midnight, Real Hero by College and Electric Youth, the Beach Boys track, Wouldn't It Be Nice? And like I said, this was probably the least common one I found, but it did pop up here and there. So the final sequence is AAAB, and this is probably the second most common sequence that I found. And essentially, you had that initial motif, that part A, that just repeats and it plays 3 times. And then the B to tie it off is what ties the bow and kind of resolves the phrase or the hook. And so you can hear this on our track Miami Nights from our first album, The Art of Youth. And then you can also hear the AAAB sequence in these other tracks here. So, Matty on Porter Robinson, a Bleachers track. And arguably, this is maybe the catchiest out of all the sequences just because of how much repetition there is. And it still has that part B at the end, which can kind of break from the repetition and then kind of tie a bow on the lead itself. Which could, make it overall just catchier, but really, like I said, catchy is subjective. And so those are kind of the 3 main structures for lead lines or for creating lead lines, at least in terms of how we write them. And now we're not claiming that this is original to us or we came up with this or whatever. This is just simply something that we've sort of realized, from learning over the years, writing our own music, listening to music that we like, listening to popular music that we don't necessarily like but is popular. And, so I think while we can't necessarily answer what makes something catchy or, using these will make your leads catchy, they can definitely kind of elevate them to the next level and give them a bit of structure and kind of give them their own 2 legs to stand on. And I just wanted to say one final thing is, we are not claiming or stating that the people who wrote these other tracks, intentionally wrote their leads with these structures in mind. We have no idea, and most likely they probably didn't. Even when we're writing tracks, we don't necessarily consciously think of these structures as we're writing our leads. They just kind of naturally happen, and I'm not sure if that just kind of grew into a thing we do over time or what it is, but take these as just something, as a tool in your tool belt that you can possibly use if maybe you're stuck on writing a lead or you're trying to write that hook and you're like, this isn't as catchy or as interesting as I want it to be. And think about it, does it fall into one of these structures? Can you put it into that ABAC? Maybe add that C at the end to tie the bow on it, and it can just possibly elevate that lead line just a little more. All right, everyone, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. Start a discussion in the comments. We would love to hear what you think. Have you heard these sequences or structures of hooks in other songs that you listen to? Or if you're writing music, have you ever used these yourself? And, if you liked the video, please subscribe. And we're going to be doing more of these here pretty soon. We have some more in the works. And also, we're doing a new thing, catch us on Twitch. You can hear us make dumb jokes and write music every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you enjoyed this video, check this one out that we did on why composition is better than mixing. And until next time, stay rad.